Hello, brothers and sisters. It's a new week. We are very, very happy to welcome you to our show titled Speak of Africa. We have a whole lot of news for you today and a lot of secrets. Do you know the secret? What happened at the UNO meeting in New York, the General Assembly? You know what happened? Ha 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 ha. Stay tuned. You're going to hear it. But before we continue, we want to say thank you to all our subscribers. We want to say thank you to our viewers. Keep subscribing and keep sharing the show with your friends. You're taking our message. For the show of today, we'll have to tell you that Africa has come of age. This is what the former president of Nigeria, Murtala Mohammed, said at one of the meetings of the OAU, Organization of African Unity. He said, Africa has come of age. He said these words a long time ago, shortly before he was killed. And the words are reverberating today. Today, the African youth is rebelling. The leaders who went to New York this time, they went there with a message from the African youth. Africa doesn't want to just take a back seat at the UN. Africa wants a seat at the table. Africa does not want the Western powers to continue dominating African countries. African countries want to have a say. They want to decide the way things work in their continent. So they don't want the Western powers like France to dictate to them what they're going to say. They want to be frank. Now it's time for change. Last week, we talked to you about Africa's role at the G20. Africa now has a seat. But the Africans are asking for more. In light of the fact that Africa has a lot of resources, why is it that the Western powers are ignoring Africa? It's because Africa has a bunch of bad leaders, dictators, people who break the constitution, trample upon it, and derail democracy. So, at the UN this week, we saw a talk of war. The talk of war is between those old colonial and neo-colonial leaders on one side, and the new generation of African leaders who are rebelling against the status quo. The status quo is more colonialism, more poverty for Africans. So the young people are saying no. The young people are rebelling. And the young African leaders are taking this rebellion to the UNO Assembly. That's what is really happening. So that's how we present the news of this week. For starters, we go to the Central African Republic. Ashanj Touadera was present at the UN meeting, and he took his time during his turn at the podium to lambast the colonial masters for pillaging the resources of Africa. Okay? What Ashanj Touadera did not really say is he has simply exchanged one colonial master for another colonial master. Under his leadership, the Central African Republic has transferred the slavery of France to the slavery of the Soviet Union, now under Russia. Before, France was the former colonial power in the Central African Republic. Because Ashanj Touadera wants to stay in power, he has now given the resources of his country to Russia. In exchange, Russia, under the Wagner Group, gives him protection. That's the real story behind the situation in the Central African Republic. Moreover, Ashanj Touadera is also condemning Francois Bozizé, the former president of the Central African Republic, to life imprisonment. These are the type of things that create more instability in Africa. Central African Republic is a powder cake. Are things going to be different? So when you see Ashanj Touadera at the UN General Assembly talking about the former colonial power, why is he not talking about the role of Russia? So for me, I don't want Africans to exchange one master for another master. Look at what the Asian tigers have done. The Asian countries have adopted a policy of non-alignment. So which means they are not supporting the West, they are not supporting the East, they are just looking for what is good for their country. Look at Korea, look at Singapore, look at Malaysia. All these Asian tigers are looking for what is good. So they came up with a concept of self-reliance development. Self-reliance, self-reliant development. Okay? If you want to develop, you have to depend on your own resources. Do not think that you can borrow your way to prosperity, which is the misconception of a lot of African leaders. Okay? Let's go now to Cameroon, La République du Cameroon. It was conspicuous that Paul Biya was absent from the UN General Assembly. The guy is aged and he continues to stay in power. He's among those sit-tight presidents. In fact, the news from Gabon has unsettled him to a point that he's afraid to leave home. He's afraid if he leaves home, there will be a coup d'etat. So coup fears are just rampant in Cameroon. It's because he has just done what most of the pushes have been saying. Biya has what they call la constitution constipée. That's what La Piro de Banga was saying, and he was killed for saying the truth. He keeps tampering with the constitution, making changes so that he can be president forever. Those are the things that create opportunities for pushes to stage coup d'etats. And when these coup d'etats are staged, the people are happy. In the case of Cameroon, last week we told you that over 66% of the people are really in favor of a coup d'etat, and they are ready for it. Mr. Biya was really shocked when he got this news, so he tried to reshuffle his military to prove himself against coup d'etats. But is that going to work? We don't think so. Okay? So let's go to Gabon. A few weeks ago, we told you about the coup d'etat in Gabon. The coup d'etat in Gabon is different from the coup d'etat in Niger. In Gabon, we have a situation where we call a palace coup, not a revolution. If the guys in Gabon were really serious about creating a revolution, they should have given power to the guy who really won that election. But they did not. Brice Oligui Nguema, the new junta chief, simply decided to put an end to a member of the Bongo dynasty. He himself is part of the Bongo dynasty. So which means the French are very happy with the status quo. And if you watch, France is not lambasting the coup d'etat leaders in Gabon. By contrast, France is very angry with the military junta in Niger. So when you look at this, why are we looking at things differently? Why is France not behaving tough with Gabon the way France is behaving towards Niger? So that's the question inquiring minds need to know. We want you to think about it, which is what we do on this show. We try to open your eyes. We raise your level of perception. Okay? Next, we take it to Ghana. Nana Akufo-Addo, the president of Ghana, made a splash at the UN General Assembly. He spoke a lot, talked about his country's debt problems with the IMF, International Monetary Fund. Ghana is too indebted to the IMF. You will not believe it. There was a time people started speaking of the Ghana miracle. A lot of people in the diaspora were returning to Ghana because Ghana's economy was booming. What happened? Well, corruption and a lot happened. Bad leaders mismanaged the wealth of the country, and Ghana is back on her knees now. Nana Akufo-Addo is trying, but it looks like his best is not good enough. As we tape the show of today, Ghanaians are in the street protesting over high cost of living. So that's really the reality in Ghana. Ghana has been able to give their sovereignty over to Western powers. They have flight rights. A lot of those things are not really pleasant to a lot of Ghanaians. Why sell your sovereignty? Those are the issues that puts the new leadership of Africa and the old leadership in conflict. People's position that Africans have to be in charge of their destiny. It is time for a change. Africans are tired of being slaves to the West. That's the message of the people of Africa, and the new leaders are taking this message to the world at the United Nations Organization Assembly. Okay? We'll take you to Kenya. William Ruto is the new president of Kenya. For many months now, he's been making pronouncements against the economy or the economic structure that the world got after the Second World War. America emerged from the Second World War as a dominant superpower. They set up the Bretton Woods Agreement and the financial structure that rules the world today. William Ruto is saying that this financial scheme favors the West and hurts African countries. It promotes debt in African countries, and a lot of these loans cannot be repaid. So it puts African countries at a disadvantage. So he wants us to remake the UN to become more representative, more democratic, and less dysfunctional. Because when you look at the UN now, it's like a dysfunctional organization. People thought the League of Nations was weak and dysfunctional. Some people were saying, in fact, one of my history professors used to say, if America were a member of the League of Nations, maybe the League of Nations would have been a more powerful and well-functioning organization. Well, today, when you look at the way the United Nations is functioning, it looks like the superpowers think they can do and undo at the UN. And so most of these African leaders, like William Ruto, they are really criticizing the Secretary General of the UN and the UN as an organization, because they think it is not representative, it is undemocratic. The big powers who have a seat at the Security Council, they make the decisions. Then the other countries, even though they have a lot of wealth, a lot of the 54 countries in Africa, they have a lot of wealth, but they don't have a say at the UN. So things must change. So can we use wealth as a way to assign value at the UN, which is what needs to happen? Africa has a lot of wealth, but their wealth is stolen by these Western powers. Then they give us no seat at the table. Is this fair? The young people of Africa are saying it's not fair, things need to change. And we think we're happy with the role of William Ruto. He's raising a lot of important questions, and it's time for the West to stand up and listen, because Africans now are talking. The youth of Africa is rebelling. They are revolting, okay? So they don't want to take no for an answer. There are slaves who have said, oh, master, I'm not going to listen to you anymore. You can keep your house slaves, the colonial leaders, but we want to get rid of all of them. So coup d'etats now are a mechanism to get rid of most of these colonial leaders. In fact, that's what is happening in Niger.
Tired of waiting in long lines at the emergency room or your doctor's office? You should be. Why wait in long lines for care? It's time for you to come to Lucielle Urgent Care. Real care, no waiting. Lucielle Urgent Care, the best place for true and loving care. Service at Lucielle Urgent Care is convenient, fast, time-efficient, affordable, accessible, transparent, and cost-effective. Royal treatment is your right. Indeed, it's not just a privilege or pejorative. Skip the emergency room's long lines, kiss the ER goodbye, say farewell to your old doctor's office, pay less, save time, enjoy the excitement of convenience, receive immediate treatment, get the healthcare you need quickly and affordably. Lucielle Urgent Care offers many express services: rapid COVID-19 testing, on-site prescription, preventative lab services, imaging and x-rays, urgent medical treatment for common illnesses and injuries, routine vaccines and flu shots, work-related injury services, pre-employment, occupational, annual, and sports physicals, immigration exams, and much more. Same-day treatment, rapid lab results, extended hours, weekend hours, no appointment necessary, no insurance necessary, no doctor necessary, walk-ins accepted, telemedicine available. We are open 7 days a week with evening and weekend hours. We are located in Maryland. Lucielle Urgent Care, 903 Half York Road, Towson, Maryland, 21204. Website, lucilleuc.com. Call at 443-275-1286 or 301-593-4897.
Mohamed Bazoum is still playing with France. France is using him as a tool. So when you look at the UN today, the guy who used to represent Niger at the UN has now gone to the side of the junta. So he's not at the UN. So now, who is going to represent Niger at the UN? Niger doesn't have a representative. The military guys were not allowed to represent Niger. So this is the problem at the UN we experienced this week. Niger did not have a representative at the United Nations General Assembly. Whose fault is it? Well, this lays threadbare the problems in the world community. It tells us that the UNO needs to become a fairer organization. They have to be more just to Africans, okay? And which is why Niger is taking a lot of steps. Then you also see the politics of ECOWAS. Is ECOWAS a tool of the United Nations and the West? That's a question a lot of you are asking me. It seems as if the answer is yes. A lot of the guys in ECOWAS seems to have been bribed by the Western powers to represent their interests. Because right now, why is it that the people in Niger are happy about this coup d'etat, but a lot of the countries in ECOWAS are not? Because he who pays the piper dictates the tune. The piper is the West. They are the ones benefiting from the uranium in Niger. France, for example, does not want any other person to benefit. Niger has a lot of wealth, but the people are not really benefiting from this wealth. In the past shows, we talked to you about what is happening in Niger, and you could see that even the Tuareg people, they don't benefit from the wealth of this country. Their rebels are asking for an equitable share in the wealth of this country. But it looks like most governments will come and play politics and they give them nothing. And which is why there is a whole lot of resentment in the community. So the situation in Niger, it looks like even the United States, they took advantage of the presence of a lot of African leaders at the UN General Assembly. Most African leaders of the new mole have been complaining that the United States is so focused on the problems in Ukraine and China to the detriment of Africa. As a result, Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, tried to reassure African leaders that no, the United States is focused on Africa's problems. Is this sincere? We don't think so. It's just that they realize that China and Russia are scrambling for Africa, so they just want to wake up and push these people out of Africa. But it's too little, too late. If America really wants to do much to stem the tide of Russia and China, they have to do a lot more to win the hearts and minds of Africans. Then when we look at Nigeria, Bola Tinubu, the new Nigerian president, was present at the UN General Assembly. In fact, he was even present at the NASDAQ. You know the NASDAQ, part of the stock exchange, where you have the new and growing companies, where they are represented. So Bola Tinubu was supposed to ring the bell. Some people say he goofed. Did he goof? Okay. But also another good story in Nigeria is Hippolyte Amadi. Bola Tinubu gave him a prize as the best scientist of the country. So we're really proud of Hippolyte Amadi. He's a great scientist, and for receiving this prize for some of the work that he's done, pioneering work that he has done in healthcare, we think it is salutary. And let us say we are proud of Africans when they do very well, okay? So let's welcome this Nigerian who has really done well for science. Whatever he does is going to be for the good of other Africans, okay? So it is time for Africans to engage in research and do something positive. So we salute him. Then we'll take you to Senegal. In Senegal, the people also made their presence felt. A lot of the people were there to protest. They were protesting because of the games Macky Sall is playing in the country. Even though Macky Sall has decided that he's not going to run for a third term, he has unpicked Amadou Ba to represent his party during the election next year. But in order to achieve his goal, he thinks Ousmane Sonko has to be kept in jail. It looks like Ousmane Sonko is very, very popular. So he's afraid that if his candidate, Amadou Ba, contests the election with Ousmane Sonko, Ousmane Sonko will win. So he is so afraid of Ousmane Sonko, and the people can see it, then they are making a whole lot of noise about it. Ali Bongo had told his people, make noise, make noise. The people are not making noise. They said, you are a joker. When we wanted to make noise, you sent soldiers to kill us. And Brice Ngema deceived you to buy a lot of tanks to fight us during the election period. You did not know that he's going to use these tanks against you to make a coup d'etat. So you see how life is funny? The same tanks the guy is telling you he's going to buy to save you from the people, instead he used these tanks to stage the coup d'etat. So when we look at Senegal, Senegal also has a leader who keeps playing with the people. Okay, the people want Macky Sall to leave them alone, but Macky Sall does not want Ousmane Sonko to run for president. Is it the role of Macky Sall to decide who should be president? Most of the charges against Ousmane Sonko seem to be spurious, because even his own lawyers have been attacked by the government of Macky Sall. Is this how you run a democracy? No. So this is why we're really having a whole lot of problems in Africa. This is why we're having a whole lot of coups. And talking about coups, the supporter of coups is the president of Guinea. He made a splash at the UN General Assembly. Mamadi Doumbouya, the crowd was shouting, Mamadi Doumbouya, Mamadi Doumbouya. He's young, charismatic, handsome African. He was the one who explained to the world why there are coup d'etats in Africa. We've been sharing this position. We're happy that now people who have the world stage are taking our viewpoint and expressing it at large. We've been telling you that coup d'etats are happening in Africa because of weak institutions. In every country where there has been a coup d'etat recently, you realize that the institutions are weak. Who weakens the institutions in the country? Most of the time, the guy who becomes president is the one who weakens the institutions. So power is concentrated in the hands of one guy in the presidency. Okay? So most guys know that if I want to dislodge this president from his position, I just need to go to the presidential palace and pick him up like a parcel. Once I pick him up, now he cannot speak. Then as I go to the radio and announce that I'm the new leader. Then I ask my friends who are in the military to give me their support. When I get in, I'm going to share the wealth of the country with you. And most of the guys who are in the military, they are not patriots the way they present themselves. They are there just to rob their country blind. That's what we know. Okay?
Do you need tax preparation services? We can help. Contact PJ Tax Service, America's only full-time income tax preparers. Like the good old doctor, we do not close our doors after April 15th. In fact, we stay open all year round in order to serve you. We are located at 11207A Lockwood Drive, Silver Spring, Maryland 20901. Make an appointment today with Prince Ojong, your tax expert. Call 240-350-1131 or visit us on the web at www.pjtaxservice.com.
Look at the military intervention in Africa. Give me one single case in which the military intervened in Africa and they built the country better than what the civilians have done. The answer is none. All new military governments, they will come in with the language of revolution. As time goes on, they start doing the same thing the former presidents were doing. And now what happens to the people? It is really sad for the people. So we are not really hopeful. Even though we like the fact that military coup d'etats are taking these sit-tight leaders out of power, we don't think that alone is a solution. I think it's just like a beginning. Let's kick these guys out, but let's sit back now and build a country. Okay? Let's build a country with powerful institutions. I remember Barack Obama once went to the AU and made a speech where he talked to African leaders. Big man, bequeath your country with big institutions. If you're a big man and your country has small institutions, then you are not bequeathing your country anything. In fact, as we're coming to the studio to tape our show, we heard that Paul Kagame has announced that he wants to run for a fourth term in his country. So does it mean that Paul Kagame is the only guy who can really be president in Rwanda? He's the only guy who knows how to make Rwanda function well? This is what creates problems. Then at the same time, he demoted and fired a lot of guys who were in the military because he thought that would be a way to proof his country against coups. But how is that going to work out? Don't be surprised if A crazy military guy takes Paul Kagame out. Because a lot of the military are disaffected, they are unhappy with what he has done. He may think he's watching them, but he just takes one crazy guy who is inside the orbit of Paul Kagame, and he will unravel. Because these guys weaken the countries they are leading. As the countries are weak, all other institutions are weak. So the guys who organize coup d'etats, you call them pushes, they focus on the presidential palace. So that's why you have a lot of bloodless coups in Africa. We call them palace coups. Once you disable or dislodge the president, the country is all yours. That's what is happening in Africa. So this is really sad. So this tells us that if we want to avoid coup d'etats, because there's so much news, every week we're inundated with stories about coup d'etats in Africa, coup d'etats in Africa. You are also tired of hearing about coup d'etats in Africa. So what can we do to prevent coup d'etats? Well, listen to Mamadi Doumbouya. Have your government to try to build institutions. When you become president, avoid the selfish instinct. Behave like George Washington in the United States of America. When he became president, after 2 terms, he decided that he did not want to run for re-election. He quit the political stage. By contrast, African leaders, such as Paul Biya of La République du Cameroon, they want to be president forever. Then when you criticize them, they send their thugs to kill you. So this is sad. And you look at Sudan. Well, Sudan is going through a civil war. Sudan has had coup d'etats, not one, many coup d'etats. Even after al-Bashir was ousted, now you have al-Benign running the country. Now he's fighting with Dagato over power. Why? Because they need the resources of the country. Are these people patriotic? We don't think so. So if you're hoping for patriotism has not yet come to Africa. Coup d'etats, Africa is asserting herself. Bye-bye.
Now more than ever, it is critical that medical facilities utilize modern, reliable electronic health records. Introducing Alexia HTC, the innovative, affordable online solution for physicians and patients. Doctors' visits, diagnoses, prescriptions, and billing have never been easier. With Alexia HTC, you can work more efficiently with the integrated flexibility medical professionals need today. Schedule a live demonstration. Call or visit us at alexiahtc.com.
Do you need tax preparation services? We can help. Contact PJ Tax Service, America's only full-time income tax preparers. Like the good old doctor, we do not close our doors after April 15th. In fact, we stay open all year round in order to serve you. We are located at 11207A, Lockwood Drive, Silver Spring, Maryland, 20901. Make an appointment today with Prince Ojong, your tax expert. Call 240-350-1131 or visit us on the web at www.pjtaxservice.com.
Selling a service or a product? Need buyers? Use the African Nation TV as a channel to reach many viewers. Act now and call Prince Ojong at 240-350-1131. That's 240-350-1131. Act today.